Hello, welcome, happy Saturday afternoon for me. It's probably evening or morning. People watch me all over the world, I guess. So who knows what time it is wherever you are. And of course, if it's archived, then you're watching it whenever the hell you feel like watching it. So we are going to talk about manifestation and the role of the third eye. It's going to open up a lot of other things. What I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to go deeper into deeper levels of understanding in these things, because my experience with much of religion and spirituality is that they're operating from some level of truth, but if you don't get past the surface level, the superficial levels of the teachings, then you get stuck in these, these two-dimensional, new agey kind of fluffy bunny nonsense that goes nowhere. And then people walk around and talk about how stupid and ridiculous it is. The Secret is one example of those. The Secret has, it's about, I would say it's about 75–80% accurate. There's a missing 20% that you can only get by going deeper. And if you don't go deeper, then you miss certain rules and exceptions in order to get the thing to work. So I am going to fill in all of those blanks, as well as go deeper to help people if what they really want to do is master this ability of intention, which is, by the way, what you are designed for. If you're born a human being, you are designed for this. All of your challenges in your life are designed to give you an opportunity to hone this ability. Your soul has created all of the challenges in your life, no matter how difficult they may be, because your soul wants to learn how to intend beyond that. If you live in horrific, horrible situations and you're a victim of circumstance, I'm not trying to judge you for that. I know I've gone, some of you know how some of the stuff I've gone through. A lot of you don't. One of these days I'm going to actually go and tell you where I've been and what I had to go through, and what I had to do to become who I am today. And you'll see the difference. I'm not just some guy who has everything, and I'm just walking around saying, I have everything, you should have everything too. No, I went through a hell of a lot. And I've come out the other side of that, and I've got a pretty damn good life, I have to say. So anyway, we're talking about the third eye and manifestation. So we're going to, I've got a lot to say, and so I'm going to go ahead and get started. For those of you, if you're just tuning in to the live Q&A, if this is archived, meaning you just saw it on YouTube and it's already recorded, this doesn't apply to you. You can go ahead in the comments sections and just put whatever comments or questions you have. If you are watching this live, the best way to interact with me is to leave a question. I know people want to talk with each other, and that's, I guess I have to allow that. The more that I have to sift through all of the comments and the discussion between you guys, it takes that much more time for me to get to the questions, which I want to do. If you want to ask me a question, put question and then type in the question. If you're actually watching it recorded, or if you're emailing me, people email me, they shouldn't email me unless they're already worked with me, but you don't have to put everything in all caps and type question. I'm only talking about the Q&A here in this live session. So hold your questions for a while. I'm going to get into this, and I may share with you some things that you've already heard, but my plan is to go a little bit deeper, and so I'm going to hold off on answering questions at least for a little bit, so that I can get into some of the meat of this stuff, because I really want to teach some of these things here today. So I'm going to get out my little, my outline, so that I'm clear on what I'm saying here. So, all right, so to understand how to manifest, The first rule is the first rule of getting anywhere in my system, in the thunder path. To get anywhere in the thunder path, the first hurdle that you have to overcome is you have to drop all of your negative, fear-based belief systems. All of them. Anything that contains fear within it, negativity within it, that is going to create your assumption. So before I get into that, first we have to understand everything in your world, not just the way that you think or how you believe or how you communicate or how you interact, but everything in your world, your coffee cup, your mouse, your iPad, your physical body, the people in your life, all of these things are the result of the assumptions that you make. For instance, pretty much all of us carry an assumption with us that we believe in gravity. We have an assumption that if we step off a cliff, we pretty much assume that we are going to fall to our death if it's a high enough cliff. We assume that if you are submerged underwater without some kind of breathing apparatus, we assume you will eventually drown because you won't be able to breathe. So that's what I mean by an assumption. If you don't have that assumption, then you can jump off that. This is what, lots of times people OD on. Even some of the marijuana these days is so powerful, people are really flipping out and doing things like this, jumping out windows. And so if you somehow lose that assumption and you try to jump off your 3-story roof, there's a good chance you're going to break something or die. So assumptions are helpful for us, but everything in your universe is created based off your assumptions. So if you have assumptions that you are a victim in any way, the government is out to get you, aliens are out to get you, the devil is out to get you, archons are out to get you, you live in a 2-dimensional matrix, the police, whether or not that's true isn't the point. If you have that belief assumption in your mind, then that is going to determine what you create. Okay? So everything is based on assumptions. All right, so you have to get rid of all of your fear-based belief systems. In order to do that, you have to drop all the ones that you know of. So if, let's say, again, let's talk about conspiracy theories. If you are somebody who has a pet conspiracy theory, and it doesn't matter which side of the aisle you're on, if you're, let's say you're a 9/11 truther, and you really believe that our government and George Bush and whomever crafted this thing to create 9/11 so that it would help us go to war so that we could take the oil and own the world, if that is your belief system on one side, or on the other side, if you have a belief that, what's a good one? Pizzagate. If you believe that Hillary Clinton is underneath a pizza parlor and she is feasting off the blood of children, any of these conspiracy kinds of theories, you got to drop them, whether they're true or not. So for right now, I won't pick a side. You can have your conspiracy theory and I'll let you believe it's true. But you have to drop it. Because even if it is true, once you get that lodged in there, that is going to limit what you create. If you want to be free from debt, if you want to be prosperous and you want to have a lot of money, if you have a belief system that the government is out to tax you and take all of your money through taxes, that is exactly what will happen, no matter how much money you make. If you have a belief that, that's not going to affect you, then either you will make more money than you need and have plenty to pay taxes, or you will end up having the kinds of business where you will be able to work through all kinds of loopholes. And this is what I'm going to get to here, because now we're going to get to the second understanding of manifestation, which is we have to understand the nature of reality. So So understand that manifesting in reality has as much to do with what reality is made up of and how you interact with it as it is being positive and being aligned and being able to connect, and we'll talk about all that stuff. That is important as well, but unless you understand what it is you're dealing with, that is going to create more assumptions. So let me give you an example. If you believe that reality is an illusion, that it is a lie, whether it's, the Hindu belief that we live in Maya, which is an illusion, which again, it's trying to tell you, it's trying to give you an understanding that, yeah, the illusion is that this is ultimate reality, and the illusion that you can achieve ultimate satisfaction on the physical plane. Yeah, that's what they mean by that. That's an illusion. You're not capable of doing that. But this reality is real. It is one of many worlds. And, just because I'm not living in another dimension right now doesn't mean that dimension isn't real. It just doesn't necessarily affect me. It's an illusion whenever you're in any reality, this earth-based reality. The illusion is that this is all that there is. That is an illusion, but that doesn't mean this world is an illusion by any stretch of the imagination. It is absolutely real. But what you need to understand is that all forms of reality, all of the dimensions, all of the worlds out there, they are made up of energy, matter. Matter and energy are interchangeable, and it's malleable. There are rules to it, there are limits to it, but it is malleable, and it is able to be influenced and changed through your intention. So there's another rule that you just need to know, which is that you are constantly intending. You don't have to open up your third eye in order to be able to intend and manifest. You're already manifesting. Everybody is manifesting and creating all kinds of magic every nanosecond. You are re-manifesting yourself and everything in your world every nanosecond. So you're already doing it. So you don't have to learn how to manifest. What you need to learn how to do is to get aligned so you can manifest with your intention. You can consciously manifest. The problem is that the majority of human beings, myself included, we manifest unconsciously. Unconscious means not aware. You are unaware of it. You're doing it all the time, and it's happening automatically. So it's not a question of learning how to manifest. It's a question of learning to be conscious and being deliberate with your intentions and your manifestations. That's the part that takes work and understanding. But in order to get that, we first have to understand what the nature of reality is and create that assumption within us. So we live in a very real, albeit one of many worlds, and the energy matter within it, I'm using that word energy / matter, because energy, when we think of energy, we think of something intangible that we can't really touch. But when we think of matter, we think of, actual things that are, but everything is made of energy matter, everything. And this energy matter has the ability to morph and change based on our perception. And, this isn't just a spiritual principle, this is a principle of physics, of science. The idea, I forget when, I think it was in the 70s, there was an experiment to determine whether light was a particle or a wave. And so they set up an experiment, and there were two different ways to do it. I don't know, I'm not a scientist and whatever, it doesn't really matter. But in one way, it would show whether or not light became a particle. And so they would set it up to see if it was a particle. And sure enough, it was a particle. That experiment showed it was in fact a particle. And then they did another one to see if it was a wave, and sure enough, that proved that light was a wave. Now, it can't be both, right? It's either a particle or a wave. Which one is it? How is it that it's both? And they came to the conclusion that light was responding to the intention of the observer. Once you set up an experiment, even if you say, well, I don't know what it is, but if you set up the experiment so that it's here to show you if something is a wave, you're already setting an intention, an assumption. This is what I mean by assumption. You're setting an assumption, and light goes, oh, that's your assumption? Okay, I'll do that. Now, there was another repetition of that same experiment done recently, and they came to the same conclusion, but they had a further result because they have more, technology. And again, I don't know the specifics of it because I'm not a scientist, but they have more technology, and they came to the conclusion that not only does light respond to the intention of the observer, but that it decides after the fact. Light does whatever it does, and then once it's done its thing, it then decides after the fact to prove back in time. It goes back in time to prove that it is a particle or to prove that it is a wave. And I'll share another experiment that one of my students shared with me a long time ago, which was they were trying to find out where in the brain decisions are made. And they were also trying to find out how long it took for a decision to be made and then the action taken. So, in other words, the decision to pick up my glasses, right? So they put a bunch of electrodes on people's heads and they're timing it and blah, blah, blah. And so they give somebody, pick up the pencil. The person goes to pick up the pencil, and then something happens in the brain after the fact. And so what they concluded was that decisions, number one, are not made in the brain, and that the brain does nothing more than record something after the fact. So this is the world that you live in. If something happens, it's deciding what it's going to be after the fact, after you have intended what it's supposed to be. And you do this unconsciously all the time. You're totally unaware of it. So, let me see, my brain is going in a bunch of different directions here. So, that's the second thing we want to talk about, the nature of reality. And so to help explain that, I'm going to talk from the mythological understanding of my ancestors, who were the Norse. The Norse, and I think I've got Anglo-Saxon in there. But we still have the Norse mythology, and the reason why we have Norse mythology is because Iceland was one of the last places in Europe to convert to Christianity, because Iceland was way the hell out in the middle of the ocean. It didn't have to do things as fast, and there wasn't this threat of being, put to death and killed and giant armies coming to destroy you and take away your religion. So they were able to convert to Christianity on their own time and keep what they wanted. And so they had this love of their ancestral mythology, and so it was written down. And so that's why we have it. If it wasn't for the fact that the Icelandic people still had a love for their ancient pagan heathen ways, we probably wouldn't know what our ancestral mythology is. So we're really lucky to have that. But the point I'm trying to make is that this was the mythological understanding of much of Northern Europe. A large majority, and it reflected a subset of the Indo-European religion, which predated that. And so what I'm trying to point out here is this is what the human beings believed about the nature of reality to some degree or other. There may be different expressions of that in different kinds of mythology, but the basic belief, the basic assumption is still the same. So in our mythology, as the world is being created, there's this giant. Giants represent forces of nature, whereas deities represent consciousness. So the deities are celestial beings that represent consciousness. There's the Vanir as well. The Vanir are not celestial beings. They are earthly fertility deities, as powerful. But in any case, that's another discussion. But the giants are not entities that you can interact with. Some you can, most of them you can't. So somebody asked me a question about Surt, for example, the fire demon. Can you interact with Surt? No, you can't. Surt is a mindless force. If Surt is the force of entropy. You cannot, you can meditate to it and pray to it all you want, but it's not like meditating to the devil or something, or trying to, it's not like that. It's a force. So the same thing with Ymir. Ymir was a force, but Ymir represented the unmanifested state of this matter energy. And his name Ymir comes from the root yemos, which means dual, which is where we get Gemini in astrology. Gemini doesn't mean twin in the sense of two of exactly the same. It means mirror opposites that are unified. It means the yin and the yang. It means relationship. Actually, you know, in case you're interested, the Gemini sign is about relationship. So Geminis are all about relationship. On the external aspect, it means romantic relationship. So this comes from Yemos. So there was a being called Ymir who encapsulated this yin and this yang, this universal energy matter. And the deities Odin, Vili, and Ve, the trinity within the universe, perception, awareness, and intention, these three things tore Ymir to pieces and created the universe. And they took his skull cap and created the sky. They took his hair and created the forest. They took his bones and created the mountains. They took his blood, and that created the oceans. These are all symbols of taking this unmanifested, infinite yin and yang and manifesting it, taking it from just energy into something manifest, like this cup, right? And the mythology is that Odin, Vili, and Ve are the ones that did this. Now, we read this myth and we say, oh, that's how the universe was created. No, that is how the universe is being continuously created. We're seeing a snapshot of it, and we're talking about it as though it's the past, but it's not. It's the continuous moment. That means that you are made up of, because you are Odin. Odin is the highest expression of the human being. You are Odin. You have three aspects within you. You have the higher self, which is where our third eye is located, which we're going to be talking about. You have the lower self, which is your earth self, that has your unconscious and your subconscious mind, your emotions, your instincts, your animal, all that stuff. And it also houses your life force energy. And then you have Ve, which means sacred space. It comes from the same root where Vishnu comes from. Vishnu is incarnated. That's why Vishnu incarnates. Vishnu incarnates because he represents the soul, and the soul is sacred space. It's the space that has to be created for us to have an experience. So that's why the heart center is such a big deal when it comes to religion and relationships and spirituality, because this is the sacred space. It also, Ve also means temple. This is the temple where the eternal soul lives. And this eternal soul, it acts like the captain on a ship. It sits on the bow of the ship and it looks out and it says, okay, turn here and go there and do this and do that. It doesn't really do any of the work. It makes all the commands. Now, if the command center, which would be the third eye, which would be like, you know, if the captain of the ship is on the ship and he's taking orders from headquarters, that would be representing the upper self. You know, he gets the orders and he makes a decision on how to fulfill those orders, and then he gives a command to the lower self, which is all the workers down there scooping all the things, or the guys rowing, or the whatever it is that needs to get done to make the ship move. All of these things have to be in alignment for him to be able to give a command and have the ship go where it wants to go. Now, if there's a mutiny, or if there's some kind of a communication problem, or if there's some mechanical problem, he can give orders all day long and it won't mean anything. And this is the state of most humans. Most humans are trying to intend their reality all the time, and nothing ever happens. Nothing ever goes my way, right? Why does everything have to happen to me? Well, that's the sign of somebody who's not in alignment. Their three selves are not communicating and they're not aligned. So we're going to talk more about that. So Ymir is this force of energy matter, and it is malleable, and what changes that, what creates reality, what takes this unmanifest yin-yang form of matter energy and, quote, destroys it in order to create the world is the three selves. It's our, again, just to throw some words at it, it's our perception, our will, our I don't know what other word I want to use. Perception, will, and intention would be will. Anyway, I'm not finding the right words for it. But this is Odin, Vili, and Ve. It is the three aspects of us that creates the three-dimensional world. Without Odin, Vili, and Ve, nothing gets created, which means that you can't perceive what's going on. Your perception is not just you seeing something out there that's coming to you. Again, if you want to talk about illusion, your perception is that this information comes to you, and with that information, whether it's sound or light or whatever it is, you then create this three-dimensional world that creates, in reality, your three-dimensional existence. So it is the power of Odin, Vili, and Ve that is able to perceive, but that perception at the same time creates. Going back again to the physics experiment, light responds to the intention of the observer. And then that will give the observer the perception, which is merely just a following through, a reflection of what their intention was to begin with. Let's see if light acts like a particle. Boom, it's a particle. Well, that was your intention all the time, even though you thought, I'm trying to look at what's going on. Here's something else you need to understand about this matter-energy universe that we live in. This matter-energy universe that we live in is conscious, but it is completely dependent upon you for what it does and what it can be. There are rules, there are limits that it has to follow within, but it is completely dependent upon you. It's waiting for you to tell it what it is. The universe does not understand that you don't know that you're infinite. The universe is seeing you as this infinite, all-powerful being who is making all of the commands, telling it what to do and what not to do. And if, whatever it does, it thinks you know what you're doing. Now, if you have an incorrect assumption about who you are, if you're walking around with fear-based belief systems, if you are somebody that thinks that you know the truth of the world because you have all of these fear-based conspiracy theories running around in you, then the universe is listening to that and goes, oh, archons, demons, victim of the government, okay, we'll go ahead and create that for you. They don't understand that that's not what you want. All they know is that you're running around projecting this out all the time. That's why your belief systems are so important. Okay, so I guess let's talk about something that I think goes along with that. Now, so I'm telling you that you have to be free of fear, that you have to be, once you're clear on what the assumptions are, what the rules are, staying positive, and understanding that you have power, being fearless. I teach that as well. That in order to get what you want, you have to be fearless. Fearless doesn't mean that you take out your gun and start shooting everybody. Fearless means that you go after what you want regardless of who you're going to piss off, or, you're going to lose the security of the job. If it's something you don't want, why do you have that job anyway? Fearless means you go after what you want regardless of what the negative consequences are. And the reason for that is that, again, everything that you've created, including all of the limitations in your life, are a result of your intention that you've thrown out there. You're looking at it as though, oh, that's what's out there, that's real, those are the limitations, that's all I can do. And the universe is going, no, that's what you told me to do. You told me to create those limitations for you. Did you want me to change that? And then if you go on talking about how the government does this, that, or the other thing, or somebody's out to get you, or you're living in a false matrix, then the universe goes, oh yeah, I was right. You wanted the limitation, you wanted the victim simulation in this hologram. Oh yeah, I did that. That's what I'm doing. And you see it as something that's already happened, but it is merely the reflection of the intention you've been carrying with you the whole time. So if you change that, the way that you change that is through action. So it's more than just sitting and meditating. I mean, this is part of it, because you have to know what it is that you want. And most of the time we don't know what that is until we get into a meditative state and we meditate what it is that makes us happy, what gives us joy. That gives you the ability to go take action on it. Okay? Taking action on it is when you take action, especially if that action is directly opposite to what the universe is saying you can't do, which again, that's only doing what you told it to do. If you act opposite of that, then the universe goes, hey, hang on everybody, he's changing the rules. Let's go give him this thing now. Now he doesn't want to be a victim anymore. He wants to be prosperous. He wants to be healthy. Wants to be happy. Okay, let's go give him that. And these are the ways that he's doing it. He's, for me, oh, he's leaving Idaho. He's getting a divorce and he's driving with no money to California, full of pain, but he's going to go surfing. Okay, so let's go create that. Let's find him a place to live. Let's get the money together. The universe responds to your actions. Your actions are the proof that you have changed your assumptions. Your actions are the proof that you have accepted the assumption that it is your highest destiny to live in bliss and to be happy and to have joy. And it doesn't mean that you wait around for the joy to come get you. This is one of the biggest mistakes. What people do, and this, I've done it, so it takes one to know one. People sit around and they go, oh yeah, I know what I want to do. I know what my greatest joy is and how I want to live, but I don't have the money right now, so I have to get the money. And then when I get the money, then I'll go do this. And the universe goes, I don't understand. I'm ready to give you the money, but I'm not going to give you the money until you go after what you want. And then when you need the money to create that, I'll give it to you. But it doesn't make any sense. I'm waiting. It's right here in my hand. You're not taking action that's congruent to what you say you want. You say, I can't, I don't have the money, so I won't, fine, I won't give it to you if that's what you want. The universe doesn't know you don't know any better. So change what you know. Okay, so now another thing that I want to focus on. Okay, so it's clear, I'm making clear you've got to be positive, you've got to change your assumptions, you've got to be fearless. Another one is you've got to go after what your deepest joy is, right? But there's another pitfall, which is denial. So the difference between taking action towards what you know your true soul desire is and denial is when you are miserable, when you are upset, when you are fearful, where you are in pain, and there are things that you have not acknowledged within you. When you're in one of those places, then a lot of times people, this is what happens with New Age spirituality. This is why people make fun of New Age spirituality, because it's all fantasy. It has no bearing in practical reality. Now, I'm talking about some way out stuff there, but all the stuff I talk about, I only talk about stuff that I have practically achieved or that I am in the process of practically achieving. I don't ever talk about stuff that I don't have any awareness or knowledge of. So when we are avoiding problems within our unconscious mind that are the creators of the problems that we have, right? Because all of our problems, if you're miserable, it's because there's unconscious beliefs, there's unconscious intentions. Unconscious means you're unaware. There are things that you are doing probably because you learned to do them to protect yourself. Your unconscious mind believes it's protecting you, even when it creates misery for you. The misery that your unconscious mind creates is an attempt by your unconscious mind to protect you. This is why it's important you have to understand the assumptions, what your assumptions are and what your beliefs are. And these go very, very deep. So sometimes, let's say you don't know. Let's say, for example, let's take somebody who wants to be in a loving relationship, who wants to be intimate, in an intimate, loving, committed relationship. But for whatever reason, they keep manifesting these physical abusers that'll come and smack you around, that beat you up. Have you seen this? Men do it too, but we mostly see it with women. Women who get into relationships with men who are physically abusive, that beat them, that berate them, that control them. And when that relationship ends or the guy goes to jail, they either go and drop the charges to get him out of jail, or if that guy dies, they'll go find somebody else. They just keep finding these guys. There was a rock song, and I always hated this song. Who was it? I'm trying to remember. So I can't remember the words, but something like, it's the best she can do. Something like that. She makes excuses for him because that's the best she can do. That's the best she can find. And I would listen to that and I'd say, what a bunch of garbage. She's this victim and she can't find anybody better. That's the best she can find. So why not be alone? Why do you need that? Just ugh. In any case, you get my drift. Why is it that somebody does that when they consciously are saying to themselves, I want to be loved, I want to be treated with love and respect and kindness and beauty and romance, and yet I'm with this guy, or I keep finding the same guy? That is happening because on an unconscious level, there was some irrational belief that came in, probably because this was, again, if we're talking about somebody physically abused, they grew up in a household where the father physically abused them, or they watched their mother being physically abused. So as a little kid, you go, oh, that's what love is. That's safety. Daddy loves me. Daddy protects me. I want daddy's love. And then they go out and then they start looking for that. Consciously, they're going, I hate this. This is miserable. But on an unconscious level, the unconscious mind is going, yeah, but that's love. We need to go find love. And that's what love is. So let's reject these other guys. You'll find those guys are boring. The guys that are nice, that actually give you what you want, they're boring. But that guy, ooh, he's really exciting. Oh my gosh, he's beating me now. It's happening on an unconscious level. It's extremely important that you understand this. So denial is when you are living in a way where you're continuing to manifest all of your unconscious, unpleasant assumptions and beliefs, and you're either not aware of it or you don't know why it's happening or whatever it is. On a conscious level, you are doing I want to be happy, I want this, I want that, I'm gonna believe this. See, that's a misunderstanding. So when I'm telling you to be fearless, when I'm telling you to follow your joy, I am not telling you to be somebody who's choosing to avoid their unconscious, unresolved, false beliefs. Here's the biggest problem, though. And I know because I've been there. So I'm talking from experience. In order to overcome those false beliefs, those false assumptions, you are going to have to face the pain, the sadness, the misery that you have been putting off. Because in order to continue to live in those kinds of ways, you have to put off the pain, because otherwise if the pain would have hit you, you would change. But remember, your unconscious mind says, no, this is what you're supposed to do in order to get love or be accepted or be happy. You have to be a miserable this, or you have to be a victim, or you have to be a martyr because that's what daddy wants, or that's what God wants, or whatever. And this is all happening unconsciously. And in order to keep living like that, you have to take the pain of it all and push it aside. So in order to get past that, if you're one of those people like me, where in the past, it didn't matter, I was so miserable, but no matter what I intended, I kept creating the same garbage over and over and over again. Well, part of that is that I had to do a lot of work, decades of work, of uncovering what those false assumptions were. And then when you realize, oh my gosh, this whole time what I wanted was my dad's love and approval, and he not only never gave it to me, but he never will. And to go through the sadness that was supposed to happen. Go through the pain, the sadness, and the misery that was supposed to happen at the time that it happened. But what we do when we're in survival mode is that when something like that happens, and we're not taught to be able to mourn, or to be sad, or to be angry, or to be whatever the negative feeling is. When we haven't been taught how to do that, then what we do is we take that and we push it aside. We say, I can't deal with that right now, I have to survive, and we push it aside. What ends up happening is all those emotions keep building and building and building, and then it has to go somewhere. And where it goes is out into our reality. So we manifest in our reality all of this chaos and all of this misery and all of this sadness. And now you can see, and then it's easy from that point on to feel like a victim. You are a victim. You're a victim of your own self-created feelings that you have continued to divert. They have to be expressed. Now, if you don't feel them on a conscious level, I'll give you a perfect example. My fiance died 3 months ago. Has it been that long? Oh my God, it feels like years. She died 3 months ago. Devastated me, the worst pain I've ever experienced in my life, and I've experienced a lot of pain. Worst sadness, worst mourning. Now, even though all of that was happening, my business went through the roof. I was busier than I had ever been. I was more successful than I'd ever been. And somehow I was able to roll with that and keep going and still have the feelings and mourn. So that is what's supposed to happen. So that's good news for me. I've accomplished something because I experienced a tragedy, and instead of that driving me down into a place of, trying to avoid it, I faced it head on. You saw me. I blubbered in front of you, for a while. Steadily, I showed, what was going on with me, but I kept doing what I was supposed to do. That's what we're supposed to do. But when you're in a survival mode and you don't have somebody there to teach you that that's okay, yes, you're sad, it's okay to be sad. Cry it out or get upset or tell me how you're feeling. If we don't have somebody there to teach us how to do that, then we feel shame. We feel shame for our sadness. We feel shame for our anger. We feel shame for our fear. We feel shame for our disappointment. And we start to punish ourselves for normal human feelings. And at the same time, we tell ourselves, we can't deal with that. Let's push that aside and just pretend everything is good. Put on a stiff upper lip or whatever it is. And all that happens is those feelings just start to back up. And then you got this reservoir of unresolved, natural human feelings that never get dealt with. And then we create all kinds of craziness in our lives, and or they go into our physical tissues. This is the source of chronic pain. Again, I'm telling you from personal experience. I'm telling you from somebody who had chronic pain starting from, if I look back, I started having it in college when I was like 20 years old, 19 years old. because of I was so much, self-directed negativity and pressure, and that's when it started. I started having chronic back pain and chronic knee pain and all kinds of other chronic pains in my body. And I'm telling you from somebody that I healed myself of supposedly incurable age-related chronic pain. I healed myself of it. It's nonsense. A lot of people, the majority of people out there with chronic pain, whether it's TMJ or tendonitis or back pain or neck pain, the vast majority of it is what I've just got through saying, which is all of these unresolved emotions that get trapped in the tissues. Once you acknowledge those and then take action towards your true nature, what you truly deserve, and face all of that self-directed negativity, because that's what's going to happen, then the symptoms will go away. Now, you may have a lot of feelings, which is what people are trying to avoid. That's why we have so many people that are addicted to pain meds. This is what it's all about. This is why we have so many people who need medical marijuana just to get through the day. That's what it's all about. It's now you're looking for something to help you to turn those feelings off, because you can't face them. And you haven't been taught to face them. In fact, you've been taught not to face them. Turn that frown upside down. I had this the other day. I was hanging out with some friends, and I said something to somebody, and I said, I was actually kind of bragging and happy that I was doing so well. And I said, I'm really busy. What I meant by that is, I'm doing really good, but I kind of, I'm really busy. And he goes, you're not that busy. And that hit me, and I went, well, fuck you. I didn't say that to him, but that's what I thought. It's like, fuck you, man. You can keep that shit to yourself. I don't need that. And so that's not somebody I'm going to hang out with as much, because now I know that there's something that's going on with me that's making him feel intimidated. And he's one of these guys that he doesn't believe that he should be happy. He believes he has to be a martyr and blah, blah, blah. So my happiness, of course, is going to push those buttons in him anyway. Anyway, I sort of got off the subject there. Anyway, so there's a lot of stuff there. I want to get into later the rule that has to happen in order for you to be able to intend successfully. I'm going to talk to you about why things are mixed, when you get mixed reactions. And we're sort of talking about the third one, which is what happens when nothing goes the way you want it to, when you can't manifest any of your intentions. What I've just got through talking about is that. But then there's the middle ground, which is sometimes yes and sometimes no. And then there's the ideal, which is you are able to consciously manifest what you choose to. And so we'll talk about how that happens. So now I'm going to go ahead and let's see. I'm going to play the little thing again, which will have some links to all of the stuff I'm going to be talking about. There's going to be some huge changes. Not changes, more like additions to the path. I'm going to be creating more certification programs. I've decided that what this path is to do is to empower others to empower others. This isn't about me sitting up here teaching. I'm going to take these teachings and I'm going to codify them in ways and give them to you, so that not only while you're empowering yourself, you're going to be able to empower others in the same way and make a living at it. There's multiple ways to do that. And so instead of having a bunch of students, I'm going to create a bunch of teachers. That's what I've decided to do. So the more teachers I create, you go out and you spread it like wildfire, and then this movement of ancient spirituality, which is designed to let you be your true authentic self, so that you can be the most happy, successful person you can be. You're going to now, if you choose to, be a part of this worldwide movement to bring us all into balance together. So we'll talk about that as well. But until then, let me take a little break here, and we'll just watch the little movie again from the beginning, and then I'll come and take a look at some questions. Alrighty, so now let's take a look and see what kind of questions we have here. Alright, let me get my thing here. Why does this happen this way? Alright, so let's start from the beginning. Again, the best way to communicate with me is to leave me a question. You have to do something to get my attention, because there's all kinds of people putting on comments and talking to each other, and I'm going to scroll past that and get to your questions, so make sure that I see that. So, all right. Let's see here. Looking for questions here. Everybody's saying hello to each other. Not seeing any question. Okay, so Rata Tasker, you got a question there, but I don't know it's for me, so say question, so I know you're talking to me. Is perception and awareness different from each other, like intuition versus sensory? Yeah. Perception is perception. I perceive that I am holding a green cup of tea. Awareness is being aware of yourself, being aware of your feelings, your essence, Like when somebody's really high, they're like, I have no idea what's going on, man. They lack awareness at that point. And that was the whole idea. They were trying to obliterate their awareness, for an experience. All right. All right, let's see here. I'm going to look for a question. I'm not seeing any questions here. Question! Raising vibrations question. If all of this is in our heads, when did I say it was in your head? And first, what do you mean all of this? I never said that. In fact, I started out by saying that reality was not an illusion. Reality was real. So this epitomizes how assumptions work. If, then. If such and such, then. You started with an assumption. The assumption is, if all of this is in our heads. I never said that. That is your assumption. I don't know if I gave you that experience or if you had that and you heard that in what I said, but that is an assumption that I never said. It is not all in our heads. But let's continue with your question. If all this is in our heads, so to speak, then how important are the deities? Well, I don't understand your question. I don't understand that. Again, there are so many assumptions in there. The assumption is that if everything is in your head, then the deities have no function. That, even if that's true, let's just assume for argument's sake that it is all in our heads. How does that then mean that the deities don't have any function? This is telling me a lot about you. This means that your belief in the deities is a need to feel as though your reality is real and that there is more than just being trapped. Listen, we live in a society that is very isolated. It's a disease. People are so isolated within themselves that they can't experience connecting with everything around them. This is why everybody is so wrapped up in their devices. This is being wrapped up in your head, the devices. And we have kids. We have a whole generation of kids going back, I'd say 15, 20 years of little kids who don't know how to interact with people because they're completely trapped within themselves. This is why we have a lot of people who believe that they're bots, who believe that there are people who aren't really human, they're just these robots, or that they're programs and they're not human, meaning they don't have feelings. This is talking about somebody who feels emotionally isolated and they can't trust anything. That's why we have so much conspiracy theories, because when you can't trust anything, then you distrust everything. This is why we have just all that stuff. So I'm hearing all of this in your question. This is what I mean by assumptions. You have to know what your assumptions are. But it's happening on an unconscious level. That's my job. My job is to bring your unconscious stuff to your awareness so that you can let go of it and change it and make different decisions. That's my main job here. So, if all of this, Raising Vibration says, if all of this is in our heads, so to speak, then how important are the deities? Again, your question is meaningless to me because I don't buy into the assumption of that question, which means that it has to be objectively real for the gods to be important. So first off, I don't accept that. I think that even if it was purely a personal experience, who's to say that the gods aren't important because of that? So sit with that for a while. Get rid of that. Get rid of the assumptions connected to that. Okay, aren't we basically, this is continuing with the question. Again, it wasn't a question. That first part wasn't a question. It was, again, people giving out their opinion. So if this is all in our head, so to speak, then how important are the deities? Aren't we basically God creating our own reality? That's what I've been saying this whole time. I've never not said that. Are these deities external forces or not? This is the problem. You live in duality. You're asking me, do we live in a mono universe, meaning everything is me, or do we live in a duality where I'm just a little piece and there's this and that? We live in a hologram. And this can only come through experience. This can only come from getting out of your head. One of the ways you get out of your head is you put these things down. Stop smoking weed. Stop doing things that keep you in a dualistic framework. Drop all of the negative belief systems. Drop the conspiracy theories. All of those things are designed to keep you in a dualist understanding of the universe. Now, all of those things that I just mentioned are the result of Christianity. Christianity came to our ancestors who lived in a holographic universe. And Christianity came and said, get rid of this holographic understanding and believe in dualism. God is there, you are here. That is good, this is bad. The physical is bad, the spiritual is good. Our ancestors didn't believe in that way. In fact, Tacitus, go and watch my little video where I talk about, I write it out, but what Tacitus says our ancestors believe. Says that according to this is way back when Europeans were barbarians. They saw Northern Europeans the same way that we see the lost tribes of the Amazon. We see them as these primitives that live in the middle of nowhere and, they're not civilized and they're stupid creatures and they're illiterate. The Germanic tribes did not worship idols because, and he goes on to say, because for them, the gods are the expressions of a spring or a forest or a mountain or the stars, that the gods were in nature and were expressed through nature and they didn't need to put it in an idol form. They're saying that they lived in a multi-dimensional hologram. Your question is asking me, you're trying to force me into your understanding of a dualist relationship, which I reject. I don't believe that. You do. You may not know that you believe that, but your question tells me that you have been programmed or you have chosen to buy into the program that you live in a dualist universe. You can't change that experience until you get out of your head. And the way you get out of your head, this is why I teach Qigong. Qigong, celestial Qigong is the best way to get out of your head. Being there, doing physical things. This is the difference, again, between modern New Age, Wiccan, whatever, and actual rituals and practices that go into prehistory. It's not arbitrary. It's not just some arbitrary thing. That's the difference between guided meditation, where somebody tells you, okay, now you're in a green forest and then the sprite of the fairies comes to you. And that's all intellectual. I want you to have experience. When you have experience, you won't need to ask these questions of, well, if that's this and this is that, then how come? You won't have to ask those questions. You have to do the work. Action is important. So anyway, I could go on and on and on, and I'll probably regret some things. But anyway, that's my response to your question there. Okay, so let's see if there are more questions here. All right, let me back up here. Question, perception versus intuition. Meaning Vili, Ve, and Odin. That is my intention. I don't understand your question so far. The three are the cutting edge of the primordial being, slaying of Ymir. Okay, you haven't asked me anything. I don't see a question in that. Thank you for you said love you. I love my ideas. Thank you for that. You'll have to ask your question a little more precisely because I don't understand what you're asking here. Have you heard, H-U-R-D, have you heard of taking acid or mushrooms to have a telepathic experience? And is it in any way connected to shamans? So, Sean, you're new to my channel, I'm assuming. I have heard of taking acid and mushrooms to have all kinds of different experiences. And is it in any way connected to shamans? Yes. Shamans have, throughout history, used psychedelics, hallucinogens. But you have to understand that by the way, the most powerful shamans on earth now don't use psychedelics of any kind. There was a history thousands of years ago, we'll go back 7,000 years with the Vedics. The Vedics used what is called soma, which was the drink of immortality. It was the drink of Indra. Indra would drink the soma and it would empower him. And so there were priests that would take things like ephedra and who knows what. People throw in, I think it was cannabis, I think it was this. We don't really know what they used. But they used some kind of hallucinatory herbs, and they did it in ritual under the moonlight and this and that, and they concocted this. And then they would drink this, and then they would get super high or stoned, and it gave them the ability to channel Indra to write the Vedas. So those people did that. So there is a connection to that. But what happened is once they, through that science, began to perfect the yogic sciences of meditation and yoga and mantra, once they started doing that, then they saw that they were able to achieve those same states without any external chemical, without any of the negative side effects. And they found that they could do even greater than that. So again, if you're following my path, if you do celestial qigong, you have to, if you're doing any kind of power plants, cannabis, whatever it is, you're going to have to start weaning yourself off of that completely, because at some point, the power plant is going to take all of your energy away and you won't make any progress. But if you're doing just the energy work, what will happen is then your brain by itself will start releasing the DMT and the dopamine and all of the other really cool things that power plants squeeze, they forcefully squeeze it out of your head. So you have an experience, but then you have to recover afterwards. You have these experiences, but then what ends up happening is that these experiences become less and less connected to objective reality, and then you get stuck in your own fantasy world. So originally, how these things were meant to be used was that you use them once, maybe twice. You use them within a very large and long ritualistic process where the shaman would every day be doing chants and be doing prayers and be doing rituals to protect you. So they might do that for weeks or months. Before then they said, okay, it's time for you to take the whatever it was. And then you would take the whatever it was, and then what would happen is the chemicals within those plants would go into your brain and like a sponge squeeze out the DMT forcefully so that you would have an experience, your aura would be cracked open. And you would then experience other realms of reality. You would then take that experience, that would then give you an experience that you live in a multi-dimensional hologram. And then that would shift and change your assumptions and your beliefs. Do you see how this ties in? And then you would be able to go and then do this on your own without the aid of anything external. But understand that in the context of those cultures, before the advent of modern religion and modern society, these are people who lived in healthy family units. They lived in a healthy society. They had a direct connection to nature. So they didn't have a lot of the false assumptions that we have. And they weren't filled with this spiritual emptiness. And people nowadays are going after these experiences because of the spiritual emptiness within them, trying to run away from the pain I've been telling you about. They have all this unconscious pain and misery that they've built up over their lifetimes. They have a misunderstanding of what the nature of the universe is. They have fear-based beliefs, all that stuff. And then they take these external chemicals, and then what ends up happening is that their lower self then projects into their reality all of these false beliefs and understandings and fears, and then you don't know what the hell you've experienced. So the way people are using them now is not at all in context with the way it was done originally. And so you're coming from a deficit there. But more importantly, the biggest understanding is that those societies, we're talking 7,000 years ago, those societies then took that information and learned how to do it on their own, and they don't take those anymore. The same is true with the Chinese. They did the same thing. If you've ever read Castaneda, Castaneda has the same theory in there, that if you really want to be a sorcerer, you got to stop taking the whatever it is, and you only do it to crack yourself open. So you have to understand that. So you asked that question, you're new to the channel, so it's important that people understand that. I have heard of it. It is connected to shamanism. But if you're asking me, is taking mushrooms a shamanic thing, and you want me to co-sign that for you, so you should go out and do that, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to help you destroy your energy body, because that's what happens with repeated use of power plants, just like any other external thing. Okay? All right. I know that's going to piss a lot of people off, but my job is to teach you and tell you the truth. All right. Looking for the, somebody used the word satanic. Well, welcome to the channel. I don't believe in Satan, but you can if you need to. Gears of Toast. Question. Currently in the Christian mindset, forsake everything, but I don't know what again, you guys got to be, actually type it out so I know what you're saying. Currently in the Christian mindset, comma, forsake everything, comma, but do feel as though I'm shooting the messenger each time. I don't know what you mean. I've been in the matrix mindset too. Do believe seeing everything else. Okay, I'm sorry, but I don't know what your question is. Please try and type it out in a more coherent fashion. Believe seeing everything else is satanic. Kind of feels hard to live. Considering my old beliefs, tough time. All right, so thank you, Gears of Toast, but there's no question in there. Thank you. All right, so Miles, question. What's the best and fastest way to... Very modern Western thinking. What is the best and fastest way? Let me tell you again the old story about the Kung Fu student. Kung Fu student goes to the Sifu and says, Sifu, I want to become a black sash in Kung Fu. If I practice for 2 hours a day, every day, how long will it take me to get my black sash? And the Sifu says, grasshopper, that will take 10 years. The student says, that's too long. I can't wait that long. What if I practice 4 hours a day, every day? He'll go, yes, grasshopper, then it will take 20 years. Let me first help you. Get rid of the best and fastest. Just get rid of it. That in and of itself will, as we've just said, that'll take off a lot of years of hard work. Just look for what works for you. Be willing to put the time and effort. Be willing to put the discipline in it. Discipline will help you find what's in your unconscious mind. Awareness of what's in your unconscious mind, your false beliefs, your self-sabotaging routines that you are not aware of, unconscious. Discipline will help bring those to your awareness. When you get rid of those, that's what you need to open your third eye. Third eye is about awareness of what's inside of you. You can't do that if you're looking for the best and the fastest. Okay. All right, back to the question. What's the best and fastest way to determine what interior state or assumption is creating what undesirable aspect of one's reality? The best and fastest way is that your question is the problem. The fact that you need to ask the question that way, the best and fastest way is to relax and drop that need to figure out the one thing. It's going to take some time. This is part of your journey. My job is to help you with that, one step at a time. Take it easy. Don't overdo it. I mean, I sound like every old, man, the grandpa says, if I actually said this the other day, I repeated it. Youth is wasted on the young. Oh, if I only knew back then what I know now. Well, it's taken me however long it's taken me to know what I know now. It takes time and discipline. Sorry to say that. But the sooner you get working at it, the sooner you can get there. Oli Fonesca, you're new to the channel. What do I think about cannabis? I just talked about that. It's an external chemical. Cannabis ultimately keeps you stuck in your head. It does not connect you to energy. It gives you a false experience of energy by opening up at the base of your spine, there's this, we have this little filter that takes energy in and brings it up into the brain. When you smoke marijuana, that little filter opens up, sucks all of the life force energy out of your aura and puts it up into your head, and your head blows up like a balloon, and you go, whoa, fall. My hand can touch everything but itself, man. Hey, I wonder if there's like a universe in my thumbnail, and in that universe there's a guy looking at his thumbnail. Takes one to know one, man. I've been there. That's what I think about cannabis. It's ultimately destructive and will not help you. If you need it for medical reasons, that's a whole other thing. There's the THC, which gets you high, and then there's the other stuff. I forget what that stuff is called that does not get you high but is really healthy for you. I take that stuff. So cannabis has all kinds of, it makes great rope. It's too bad that we're not making rope out of cannabis. Okay, so there's that. Johnny Delgadillo. Question. Does my death experience automatically release DMT? I don't know. What death experience are you talking about? Have you had one? Do you have many? I don't know. I slip in and out of dimension and astral travel out of nowhere, or is this just my mediumship? I would have to talk to you. I'd have to ask you a bunch of questions. There is crazy. I'm not saying you're crazy, but there is shamanic experience, and then there's, people who are, who have issues. So just because you have an experience, just because you take a drug and have a trip, it doesn't mean you've seen anything or experienced anything other than your own unconscious. So what I would have to determine with talking with you is your experience your own unconscious narcissistic fantasies, or is it an actual connection to a God or to the universe? I would need to know. Based on the question, my feeling is that it's an unconscious narcissistic experience. The fact that you're, asking about DMT, again, there's this idea that DMT is spirituality. It's not. It's a chemical. And it's great if you have that and you have the experience of DMT released in a natural process during, what you do. It helps, it's one of the things the universe does to help you enjoy the experience. But it's just an experience. It doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything. So don't look for that. So I don't know if it's DMT or not. I don't know what it is. All right. So, Question, Mr. Explodey. You have mentioned that mantra clears out the subconscious problems after 40 days. It's not entirely correct. I said that mantra clears out the unconscious problems after 40 days. There's a difference. So let's talk about the difference between the subconscious and the unconscious. 99% of the time when somebody uses the word subconscious, they mean unconscious. You have the conscious. You're listening to me with your conscious mind. You have the unconscious, the things you are completely unaware of. That's so important. You know, I don't want to get into that now, but basically unconscious doesn't mean it's not there. It just means you don't realize it. And in fact, if it's unconscious, it means that there's a large chunk of your energy that's seeking to keep it out of your conscious awareness so that it can keep fooling you, so that it can keep driving you to do the self-destructive things. Then you have this subconscious. The subconscious means below conscious level. So the subconscious bounces up and down between the conscious and the unconscious. It has with it all of the things like your social security card number, your phone number, your address, your age, right? Those are things you don't think of, your birthday. I'm not walking around saying September 17th, 1963. I'm not doing that 24/7, but if you ask me what my birthday is, I can tell you because it's stored in my subconscious. The subconscious mind is also connected to the third eye. It's how we intend our reality. The subconscious does that. This is a graph of it. Remember it. Okay, you ask. So you've mentioned that mantra clears out the unconscious problems after 40 days. Can you elaborate on how and why this works? Yes, I can. Remember that all of your unconscious beliefs and assumptions that are working against you are things that you have chosen to believe probably when you were like 3 and 4 years old. When you were a little kid or at various points in your life, tragedies happened to you, or you were in survival mode and you needed to survive. Usually kids 3 and 4 years old, their survival mode is about, am I going to get mommy's love? Will I get protection? Will I get food? Will somebody clean up my diaper? These kinds of things. These are the things that little infants and little kids are thinking about. They learn how to adapt to their parents. By the way, all children worship their parents, especially little kids. They see their parents as God. They worship their parents. If they have parents, as all parents are, if they have imperfect, unconscious parents, then they will learn how to adapt themselves in order to meet their parents' desires. If their parent is frightening, if their parent is abusive, if their parent is insecure, egotistical, then they will learn how to meet that so that they will get their needs met. And so that's how people learn, like I gave the example earlier of, let's say the woman who continually gets into physically abusive relationships, and even though she doesn't want to get beat up, she still keeps finding guys who beat her up. That's because she probably grew up in a home where dad beat up mom. Oh, that's how daddy loves mom, because he beats her up. It's a totally irrational, unconscious assumption. But it becomes a survival mechanism. And so what happens is when we grow up, we still have these with us. We go out in the world and then we act irrationally. We do irrational things and, we don't know why. That's why. So the mantra and the ritual, which is what I give in Vedic astrology, which is why I give it in a Vedic astrological reading, because these are sort of the mind hack that we use to get access in there. The mantra is like a antivirus program for your computer. It goes in there and it finds the bad data, the false irrational beliefs that are stuck in there that you're unconscious of, that you're unaware of, and it starts to take that apart. In the process of that, that will come to your conscious awareness, and you'll go, oh my God, I can't believe that. Or pain that you've been holding on to for years will start to come to your awareness, and then the resistance will kick in, which is you will either have chaos in your life, or something will go wrong, or you'll get into a fight, or you'll get too tired, or you just don't want to do it, or you get mad at me, or something like that. And then what ends up happening is then you find excuses not to do your ritual. It's your unconscious mind trying to preserve its false beliefs, because it believes if it gets rid of that, you'll die. It's trying to protect you. It takes a minimum of 40 days of continuously hammering away at the unconscious mind with a mantra. The mantra is specifically designed for you. If you get a reading from me, I will find out which planet, which deity, and which seed sound is attuned to your specific chart, so that it'll go straight to your unconscious issue, as opposed to, you know, like a general antibiotic that kills everything, right? That's why antibiotics are so horrible. They kill all the bacteria, even the bad one. So this one is finding the precise vibration to go in and destroy what is trying, that you are unconsciously sabotaging yourself with. It takes a minimum of 40 days of continuously hammering away at that before it'll break and the unconscious mind will release it, and that you can move past it. This is why in the Bible it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. This is why in many cultures around the world they mourn for 40 days and 40 nights. Because they know it takes 40 days for the people, the survivors of who's ever died, it takes them 40 days to change their unconscious awareness to become aware that, oh, that person isn't here anymore. I experienced that. It took about 40 days before I stopped fantasizing that my fiance was going to call me or text me. You know, I lost my fiance 3 months ago. It took me 40 days, and I felt a shift after 40 days. My unconscious realized, oh, she's dead. This is why. It's just something. It's just the way that we're built. Okay. All right. The Havamal says to use in moderation. Okay, so Radha Tasker is saying that the Havamal is telling you it's okay to use drugs in moderation, and you're going to use that. You're going to justify your drug use with mythology. My friend, if you want to get high, get high. You don't have to use the Havamal to justify it. Go do it if you want to do it. If you want to be a master shaman, you're going to have to drop all that stuff. Sorry, it's just the way it is. I don't have any judgment against it. Do whatever. Listen, I do all kinds of stuff that you're not supposed to do that you guys don't know about. But that's just because my business. That's my own personal business. But I believe I have an awareness of what I'm doing. Maybe I'm just justifying. Maybe I'm just as full of shit as you are. But in any case, if you want to do something, just do it. You don't need to justify it. That's my point. I'm not trying to justify it with spirituality, whatever my habits are. Okay, Gretchen Krause. Question. At what point do we turn from caring for others, such as our elderly family, to pursue our joy? Well, first, again, I've never said that you should walk away from your elderly family who need your assistance. I mean, are you talking about you live with your grandmother and she needs you to take care of her? You have to bathe her every day? That's, or are we talking about your husband or your wife? I just got through watching my partner die of cancer. If I had to, I would have taken care of her. I didn't have to, but I would have. I would have hated every second of it because I don't do that kind of stuff very well, but I would have done it. So I'm not telling you to get rid of your obligations that you have chosen to take. So that's different. But caring from elderly family, I mean, are you saying that you don't have to take care of them? If you don't have to take care of them, I don't know why you're asking me. You feel guilty? So pursuing your joy is not about walking away from the obligations you've chosen to take on. Pursuing your joy is about walking away from the obligations that you don't need. You're in a relationship with somebody that doesn't support how you want. I mean, I was in one and I got a divorce. I walked away from her because, I could not continue to live my life for her. There was no, it wasn't a situation where I was taking care of a sick person. So the point is this, is that wherever you are, if you're following your orlog, your path, your destiny, regardless of whether you're taking care of your family or not, there is nothing that should prevent you from following your true joy. It's not an either or. So the way you find out whether or not you're supposed to be there taking care of the husband, the alcoholic husband or the whatever wife or the parent that, the way you figure that out is you don't wait, you go after your joy now. You already know what your joy is. So if you're asking this because you want to leave, this is why, you're giving me this general question. The truth is that if we were on the phone, I would be asking you very specific questions about your life. And then I would be able to tell you. Whether it's, this general one, it's filled with all kinds of guilt and, and it's hard for me to sift through all that. But the thing to do is to go after your soul desire, regardless of what circumstance you're in, and then it will become clear to you what it is your next, whether it is to leave them or not. But you can't do that until you start going after it. You're wanting to know, when am I going to get the okay to go after my joy? You go after it right now. And the specifics of how to do that will reveal itself in knowing what the joy is. But again, I have to talk to you. For that, in case people want to know, I do provide a service. Go to career.thunderwizard.com. I can usually figure out in one session what it is you want to do and what action to take. It may take more if you've got a lot of unconscious denial. It may take more sessions. By the way, I plan on teaching that and certifying people in doing that, being able to talk to people and help them find their joy. If you want to learn about what this is, get the book, This Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. It's on my website, michaelwilliamdenny.com. The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. Read that book, do that. That'll tell you what you need to do. All right. Question. May channeling sensuality constructively involve celibacy? Yes. My Atmakaraka and Ishta Devata is Venus. Okay, so it sounds like you had a reading from me. And it sounds like the Atmakaraka karmic challenge I said to you, which is true with Venus, is that when you have Venus as your Atmakaraka, which means it's the planet that has the highest number of degrees, which has a general karmic lesson over your life, then your daily karmic action is to experience all of your daily activities channeling your sensuality in a constructive way. You said, may it? Sure, it could involve celibacy. Does it have to? No. Are you asking me because you want to be celibate, or are you asking me because you're afraid you have to become celibate? Celibacy in itself can be a way of escaping painful issues. I was celibate for 6.5 years. That's where I got a lot of my power. But a lot of people are celibate because they can't handle intimacy. So it might be what's most helpful for you is to have a committed, long-term, intimate relationship with somebody. I don't know. Again, I have to talk to you to find out. It's a good question, though. Deadly Writer question, is calling old gods for help bad or good? I don't understand the question. I mean, you're obviously new to my channel. Old gods, new gods, which gods are we talking about? If you're worshiping deities that you have a connection to, who cares if they're old or they're new? They're usually old. All deities, regardless of what name they are, you can go back and trace them back. Shiva, which is the Hindu god, which we would, compared to the Norse religion, the Hindu religion is newer. And they worship, among many, they worship the god Shiva. One of the names for Shiva is Ugra, U-G-R-A, and it means terrifying. As it so happens, Odin, if we were to look at comparatively, Odin is an older god because Shiva is a newer expression of the Vedic tradition, even though that was one of the names of Indra. One of Odin's name is Ygg, Y-G-G, Ygg. And it means the same thing because it's the same word. It means terrifying. Many people have made the connection between Shiva and Odin. I would go so far as to say they are different vibrations of the same deity. So old or new is not, who cares? I don't know why you're asking me that. Also, okay, so question, is calling old gods for help bad or good for guidance? Also, being hypnotized or mind games being played. Mind games, how can you stop the circle? You're new to my channel, just keep watching my videos. First thing is drop all fear-based belief systems, which is that you're being hypnotized. You're not being hypnotized, you're choosing to be hypnotized. If you feel like a victim, that is a choice. You have chosen to buy into that hypnotic story. You can choose to let go of it. Drop all fear-based belief systems and be willing to take a look at all of your false assumptions. That takes time. Watch my videos, work with me, I can help you with that. Again, if you work with me personally, I can help you figure out a lot of stuff very quickly. So you can go to, if you want a private session with me, regardless of the subject, you can go to career.thunderwizard.com. Gretchen Krause, question. My previous question was really more, I don't know what your previous question was, I'm past it, I don't know what it was. My previous question was really more about asking if you are saying we should pursue our joy at all costs. Yes. Or if those obligations we have can supersede that pursuit. You're living in a dualistic universe. Look at your assumption. Your assumption is an either or. The universe doesn't work like that. What I'm saying to you is the same. You go after your joy regardless of what situation you're in, and the specifics of what you need to do to follow it will become clear to you. The way you ask this question is you're in this limbo waiting for something to happen. My parents die, now I can go after my joy. You're operating, that's the assumption you're operating from. I don't know specifically, but if I talk to you, I know without a shadow of a doubt, you've got some self-directed guilt about going after your joy. Otherwise, you wouldn't be asking this question. You feel guilty about leaving somebody. You mentioned parents. I don't know if it's your parents or your boyfriend or your husband or your child, or I don't know who it is, but you have guilt about walking away from somebody in order to go after what you want. And I'm saying you don't have to do any of that. Follow your joy, and it will become clear to you whether or not you need to leave them. Okay? And you would benefit from working with me. I can help you in an hour. career.thunderwizard.com. Again, those of you who are already my apprentices, I'm going to be teaching how to do that yourself so that you can create your own income stream doing exactly that. But it's among three. I think I got 3 or 4 certifications. By the way, while I'm remembering it, those who are wanting to be certified in astrology, go to astrologycertification.thunderwizard.com. And I'm still in process of making the second level. Right now there's a package where you can buy level 1 and 2 at a discount. I'm rolling that out because level 2 is still being made, so you can do level 1 now and then wait until I've created level 2. Once both level 1 and level 2 have been created, then I will no longer offer a joint package with a discount. Level 1 is where you can learn the basics of my astrology and then either create your own business yourself if you want. You can't use my name in your advertisement, but you can create your own business. Level 2 is where I certify you, where we will set up a portal where even if I haven't chosen you to be one of the few that I siphon my work off to because I have more astrology readings than I can handle, you will still have your own web page where you can direct people to it and they can purchase it from you, and then you can still create your own business using my name and using the Thunder Wizard and all that kind of stuff. astrologycertification.thunderwizard.com. Okay. She says there's no self-guilt implied. You misread my intent. I'm quite sure that there is some, or you wouldn't have asked that question. Might be a little bit, but I know there's some. Okay. What if you can't, Allison Shepard, what if you can't go after your joy because you have children who need you? Well, we already talked about that. Now, in your question is the assumption that your children are preventing you from your true joy. That's obviously impossible because you've chosen to have them. Nobody forced them on you. And even if they did force them on you, that is something that your soul determined you would go through. So it is part of your joy. So now what you need to do is find out how to go after your joy while taking care of your kids. Dualism. What I'm seeing in here in all these questions is dualism. This or that, me or them, good or bad, right or wrong, quickest, slowest, best, worst. This is all dualism. You're all in your heads. I mean, I'm not judging you. I've been there. I do it. I do the same thing. Okay. All right. So let's see if there are any more questions. I don't think so. Radatosker, you would not have joy if your family was suffering. How do you know that I haven't? Actually, how the hell can you say that to me after what I've just been through? You realize that I watched my life partner, the woman, the one, my twin flame, I watched her die of cancer. You can't possibly say that to me and mean it. And I did have joy, and I went after my joy even more than before. And I watched her suffer, and I watched her die. The difference is, it was her suffering. It wasn't mine. My suffering was the loss of her. My suffering was watching somebody I love die, but never, ever in that entire process did I ever confuse. That is her deal, and this is my deal. I had very clear boundaries. I knew when it was time for me to back away and let her be in pain. In fact, I sat there while she was in the worst pain I've ever seen a human being be in. I've never seen that. And I sat there and I had the ability to be there and to smile and to look at her and to know that that was her experience that she had to go through. And it had nothing to do with me, and it was none of my business. And I didn't say to her, "Are you okay? Do you need anything?" I didn't do any of that. In fact, she would say I was the only person that she could come to who wasn't trying to fix her one way or another, or flipping out or crying. I knew the difference. So if you say that, then you don't know the difference. You don't know where you end and other people begin. So that's called healthy boundaries. That's on the unconscious level. That is all done, again, through ritual and energy work and working with your teacher. You guys, if you think you can do this on your own, I'm sorry to tell you, you can't. I hesitated on talking this way for a long time because I didn't want to be responsible for a bunch of people, and I didn't want to be one of these guys that sat on top of the mountain and there was thousands of people who, bowed at my lotus feet. I didn't want to do that until I'm realizing that that's not my job. My job is to empower you. You come and train with me, I will teach you how to do it, and then you can go off on your own, and then you can teach others. And so I think that's where we're going with this. I've finally come to that awareness. And now I don't have that feeling of, oh my God, I'm responsible for all these students. I don't have that feeling anymore. You guys can be responsible for yourself, but you can't do it alone. You've got to have somebody. You've got to have a mentor. You've got to have a teacher. Otherwise, you can't do it alone. If you think you can read books and watch videos and figure it out on your own, I'm here to tell you that you are wrong. It's very unlikely. Okay. I don't know what this name is. Mangekyu Master. Question. I received an astrology reading from you, which you gave me a Saturn ritual. In it included picking a certain time. However, due to my ever-changing work schedule that I have no control over, that I'm a victim of, I've been unable to do so. Did I just answer your question? The way to do that, I'm laughing at you, but listen, that's a very real scenario. You first have to acknowledge that this ever-changing work schedule that you're a victim of was your choice. Nobody forced you to take that job. You had plenty of other jobs you could have chosen to take. You can choose to quit that job now and get another one. You have all kinds of control over what's happening. You're not a victim of circumstance. So the first thing you do is you make the decision. You own that this is your creation. It's your unconscious mind trying to give you an excuse so that you won't do the ritual according to what is best for you. And so then you will say, well, of course I didn't, man, because I had this job, the blah, blah, blah. So, change that. Make a decision to change that. You own it, and then you make the decision, and you go, I am going to have the ability to do what I want to do it when I want to do it. And if that means quitting your job to do it, then you'll do it. If that means continuing and doing the best that you can until such time as you can quit that ever-changing job, then that's what you will do. But look at your question again, and look who I just asked you to worship. If I told you that Saturn wants you to worship it, then that means Saturn is saying you need to be disciplined, and you need to learn that. And Saturn will not suffer victims very well. So that's my question to you. If you can't, you can't. And if it's important enough to you, then you will do whatever it takes. This is the thing. You will do whatever it takes. If I listen to all of the doctors, if I listen to my ex-wife, if I listen to my friends even, family, if I listen to society, I would still be in Idaho with a left knee the size of a basketball, with back spasms, walking my wife's many dogs because she bred dogs, and picking up dog poop, and then having her tell me that I don't do enough around the house. I'd still be there because I can't leave. I'm married to her. There's always a way out. And the way out, again, is to listen to your soul and take action towards it. If you really need to get out of that job, you will find a way. You have to make the decision. You may not know how to do it. So you may not know, I can't quit my job right now, but I know that I want to be able to do this according to the way that I'm supposed to. I don't know how I'm going to make it happen, but I am going to make it happen. That sends shock waves out into the universe. And the universe goes to align your reality. Go back and watch from the beginning when I talk about the physics experiment, where light is either a particle or a wave, depending on your intention, and then after the fact, changes reality to fit your intention. That's how the universe works. You make that decision, shock waves go out into the universe, and the universe aligns things, and then next thing you know, you have control over that, and it's been like that all the time. It's up to you to make that decision. And I can tell you that your question and my answer is coming as a direct result of you doing that ritual. This is the power that these rituals have. Okay. Going to question part 2. Mangekyu Master. Question part 2. So my question is, can I use the mantra only at specific time, or can I use it when needed in meditation? Okay, what was your original? Okay, yeah. You can do whatever the hell you want. Do you want to do the ritual in the way that's going to give you the best results? And I'm saying this because this is a Saturn mantra. Saturn is all about discipline. Is all about regularity. So that's the lesson for you. Otherwise, Saturn wouldn't have shown up in your chart that way. You can do whatever you want. Are you asking my permission? It's up to you. Do you want to be Mr. Olympia? Well, then can I kind of go to the gym whenever I feel like it? Or should I have a regimented, what do you want to accomplish? It's up to you. The thing is, you can do whatever you want, as long as you're willing to accept the consequences of it. So, yeah, you can. Do you want to? It's up to you. More questions? Nope, I don't see any more questions. All right, let's take a little bit of a break here. Let me play some stuff here again. Let's see. New one is career.thunderwizard.com. astrologycertification.thunderwizard.com. I think those are the two new ones. More stuff available for you. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Okay, so I'm back. All right, so I want to get further off in my notes before I take any more questions. You know, when I took the break, there were no questions. So let me get back into where I want to go with this, because I do have some deeper thoughts I want to share with you. So, all right, so as you can see here, there's been one of the themes we've had is confronting duality. A lot of your questions are dualist in nature, meaning it's either this or that. And the this or that mindset is always a victim mentality, because it's either me or them. So when you get out of getting out of the understanding of dualism will also give you more options in life and give you the feeling that you're part of a hologram, as opposed to being on this flat plane of this or that, good or bad, up or down, right or left, me or him. Get you into your right brain, which is where we go when we meditate, when we do things like mantra, ritual, music, lovemaking. Those kinds of things get us in our right brain and get us out of the us or them, good or bad sort of thing. Probably why religion works so hard to guilt people out of sex. Maybe that was part of it. You know, only have sex for procreation as opposed for true intimacy and spirituality. You know, because then you could, you know, have a really fun way with another person to get into your right brain and see, you know, that it's not, everything isn't dualism. Anyway, I don't know how I got on that subject, but all right. So let's talk about manifestation. The three kinds of manifestation. There are multiple kinds, but I'm choosing to split it up into three kinds. There's the kind of manifestation where nothing happens. You know, all that happens is bad stuff that you don't want. Then there's the middle kind, where it's like sometimes you get what you want and sometimes you don't, and so it seems very arbitrary. And then you get the third kind, which is ideally what we want, where somebody has the ability to consciously and deliberately choose what they manifest. And my experience and my belief is that when you reach a level of mastery, then that just happens. You know, the last one happens. You don't even have to work at it, because that's how you're supposed to be. You know, when we are in alignment and everything is working and we're spiritually empowered and healthy, then that's just the way life works. Those are the people who seemingly get whatever they want, and, you know, that they just, you know. In fact, my fiance taught me this. You know, I am more able now to verbally elucidate the process through which this happens, but I had been doing it instinctively for, you know, at least to some degree for a while now, because I've been doing a lot of work on looking at my unconscious assumptions, looking at my fear-based beliefs, look and dealing with all of the unresolved pain and mourning and sadness and anger and all the things that were there as a result of, you know, life experience. And because of all my energy work and all that stuff, you know, after a while it built up, and apparently I sort of had gotten some ability. And we'd be out to eat, and you know, I would find myself thinking about something in my life that I wanted to change, or, you know, a problem that, you know, it was happening. And I go into this thing where I start thinking about what it is that I want. This is how I know how to get out of a problem. When I'm in a problem, I don't focus on the problem. I stop and I go, what is it that I want? And then sometimes you go, I don't know what I want. That's when you know you're in conflict. I know, because I've been there. And I continually get to that place as I evolve, my desires evolve, and sometimes I go, what is it that I want? I don't know what I want right now. I know that I want something. I just don't know what it is. So that's when I have to do the examination. This is how I know how I can help you. When I have you on the phone for an hour, I know exactly what questions to ask, and I listen to what you say, and you'll say something that will tell me exactly what I need to know to help you figure out what the conflict is and what it is you truly want. And most of the time I help you figure that out. I don't tell you, you figure that out, but I help you to do that, because I do that process within myself. Anyway, we'd be out to eat at lunch or something, and I'd be going, and I would say out loud, you know what I want? I want this to happen. or I want this to stop happening, or I want to change it. And I would then say, and what I want is to have, and I would say exactly how I want my life to be. And I didn't realize that. I just kind of did it. It was just something that I did. And she would just happen to be there while we were talking, and then I would verbalize this. And then I would, once I got to knowing, okay, that's what I want. That was my goal. My goal was to get to become conscious of what it was that I really wanted. And once I knew that, that would give me this sense of peace, and then I would stop and I would move on to something else. Okay, how was your day? And she would say to me, you know, you're not human. And I'd say, what are you talking about? She'd say, you have this ability to just decide what you want, and even when it's not at all within the realm of possibility, you say what it is you want, and I would do this too. I'd say, and what's going to happen is I'm going to have this, 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 and this. And sometimes I'd put a time limit on it. And I'd say in 3 months or 2 weeks or something. And I'm not doing it consciously like I'm making a spell. I'm telling myself, I'm becoming aware of what it is that I want and when I want it to happen. And so you know, I didn't realize I do this all the time. I'd take walks and I'd talk to myself. And I feel like I'm a nutbag, but I do. I just talk out loud to myself. That's why the beach is great, because nobody can hear me. And then I get to a level of awareness, and then I forget about what I just talked about, and I go back in and I do my work, and then stuff happens, and it's really great. But she was able to show me that this is what you do. She said, you're not human. You say you're going to have this or you want that, and then in 2 weeks, when it was impossible, now all of a sudden everything aligns to have what you want. She says, you're like this magician. You're not human. And then I would have to think back and go, I guess I did do that. But I am human. But that's what humans are supposed to do. And it's not that I don't continuously have you know, problems and limitations. I do. I mean, I'm still thinking about what my next place is going to be. I've now reached a goal that I had for myself, career-wise and money-wise, and now I know what I want. I want it to change in certain ways, and I'm figuring that out and changing that. So everything is constantly changing, but that is where we're supposed to go. So those are the three types of manifestation. The first one is where you're a victim. You're a victim of circumstance, and nothing goes the way that you want, and you never have enough money, or you never have enough love, or the people around you are mean to you, or your boss is mean to you, or you never get this, or you don't blah, 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 blah. I've been there. That is when you are living in your unconscious hell, where you are manifesting all of your unconscious self-protective issues. We talked about that. The third one I just shared with you, that's the ideal. Most of us are in this middle ground somewhere. And this is where the secret comes in. So the secret, what does the secret say? The secret says what you focus on is what you manifest. So if you want $1 million, focus on $1 million. Well, let's say somebody decides, I need $1 million, and so I'm going to make $1 million. I'm a millionaire. I'm going to make $1 million, and then $1 million never arises. I'm going to win the lottery. I'm going to win the lottery. The lottery never arises. Or more frustratingly, they say, I'm going to make more money or this, and they do, and then all of a sudden they lose it or something changes and they go back to where they were. Why does this happen? This happens because they don't know what it is that they want. Remember, I just got through telling you that what I do is when I'm feeling frustrated and I feel like something's missing, I stop and I ask myself, what is it that I really want? Like if it's about a place to live, where do I want to live? I'm continuously asking myself that. And I even do things like I will walk up and down the street here and I'll look. I did this the other day. There was an apartment next to me, where it was a penthouse apartment, 2-bedroom penthouse apartment, and I'm like, oh, I want that because it doesn't have any shared walls. Right now I love where I'm living because there's nobody underneath me. There will be soon, and we'll see how I experience that when somebody moves in underneath me. But for right now, I've got this penthouse apartment on the beach, and I don't have any shared walls. So I want that. I want that to continue. I know that. I know that I want to live right on the beach. I don't want to live a block inland. I want to live right on the beach. I know I don't want to live a half a mile in that direction. I want to live right here. This is my beach. I want to surf that beach. So I'm very close. So that next door apartment came pretty close. I walked in and it was swanky. I mean, it was open so people could go in and look at it. It was swanky, and it was like, wow. And then I looked, it's, you know, twice as much as what I'm paying now. But what happened is instead of focusing on the money, like, oh my gosh, that's so much, I can't afford that, and the feelings of I don't deserve this, and I had to go, you know, you're 54 years old. You deserve whatever the hell you want. You're not 18 just, you know, going into college and you go, oh, I don't deserve that. You're 54 freaking years old. You can have whatever the hell you want. So I got aware that I had that limitation within me of what I do and don't deserve. And then I sat with, okay, do I now, assuming that I have the money and I can live here, do I want to live here? And I sat with that for a while, and I made the decision that I didn't want to live there, and I had some reasons why. Because again, if I had the money to get whatever I want, it doesn't matter. I can pick and choose. And I decided that one wasn't perfect, but it had a lot of really good things. It didn't have any shared walls. It's in the exact place that I want it to be. And the fact that it was twice as much just means I'm just going to earn twice as much later. And I can promise you, if I make that decision, if I make the decision to double my income in order to be happy, that's exactly what will happen. Not because I said to myself earlier, if I have money, I'll get what I want. No, it was just that that's the reality of, in this location, to get what I want, if I need to double my income, that's what I'm going to do. The other way of thinking about it is to make a compromise and to say, well, I could live like a mile inland and have my own house, and then I don't want that. I want to walk out of my front door and be on the beach. I don't want to have to walk a half mile or drive. I want to walk out of my front yard. That's what I want. And I want it to be right here. So I walked up and down the street and I started looking at all the places for rent, and I started getting an idea of how much stuff cost, and then I came up with an idea of how much money I want to make. And that's what's going to happen. You'll see. You'll hear me talk about it. My income's going to shoot up. Once I make that decision. Right now, I'm still deciding I may want to live here. I may just want to soundproof this place because it's perfect location. I like a lot of things about it. And I may decide to do that. But whatever it is I decide to do, that's what I'm going to end up getting for myself. So the middle zone is when you're not clear on what you want. You're partially there. But because you have a mistaken belief about what it is you need, then what ends up happening is that the universe is getting mixed signals from you, and it doesn't know what to manifest. So it manifests a little bit of that, or maybe none of it. Let's go back to the rule. The way it works is, when you know what your deepest desire is, and you go after what your deepest desire is, the universe has to give you what you want. But I can promise you, being a millionaire is not your deepest desire. If your first thought is, I need to be a millionaire and then I'll do what I want, you don't know what you want. And you don't understand how the universe works. You can have zero money. You can be broke. You can be in debt. I was 20 grand in debt a year ago. And now I'm not in debt. I went through bankruptcy, and my FICA is almost at 700 again. So if you think you need money to be happy, then you don't know what you want. Because then you think that you need money in order to be able to, you're still treating the universe as your adversary, and you're using money as a weapon. So anybody who thinks they need to be rich in order to be happy, that's somebody who thinks that the universe is against them, and they're going to use weapon as a money to keep the universe away. Here's more money. Here's $1 million. So for me, when I want to raise my income, it's not because I don't have what I want. I had everything I wanted when I had my fiance, and I was living in a studio house, 20 minutes inland, and I was paying $850 a month. I had everything that I wanted. I was rich. It's not about that. I now am at the place where I want to live right on the beach, at this beach, and I want to surf that beach, and I want to surf as many different surfboards, and I want to fulfill that desire. That's my deepest desire. And it's not like, oh, I'll surf that beach down there, or I'll live over there and I'll drive here. Nope. I know exactly what I want. And then I adjust my my intentions to fit my desire. See what I mean? Hope I explained that. So you first have to know what your soul desire is and then go after it. And then you will get whatever the resources are, as long as you are truly going after your soul desire. Okay? All right. And you can do that under any circumstances. Doesn't matter what the circumstances are. I mean, if I went under the belief, I'd still be wherever I was in different places instead of being where I am. Okay. All right. So let's see. There was more things I wanted to talk about. Let's talk about false hope. You hear that I'm being very positive. It comes from an assumption of being positive about what the universe wants to give you. It's coming from a place of believing that you deserve. You heard me. You deserve whatever you want. You deserve it. It's not a question of whether or not you deserve it. You do deserve it, or you wouldn't want it. You may have to do some experience in life and things like that to be able to get yourself to where you can manifest it. But you deserve it. You are a God. You are designed to be able to intend and create anything that you want. So I'm very positive about that. So positive thinking is definitely something that I do. But I'm not into fantasy land, unpragmatic denial. Denial is when you are trying to avoid facing the fear, the anger, the sadness, the pain that will come as a result of taking action towards what you truly want. Now, there's a scale here. There's a sliding scale. Not everybody is going to have the same experience, but there will be a death and there will be fear. When you're going after what you truly want, if it's going to create a change in your reality for the better, you will have to face the fear of dying to who you were. You may have to face the reality of parents or loved ones or friends or family or somebody else disapproving of you, disowning you. You may have to go through that. But that's the price you pay. It's not, and it's because those people represent your limitations that you're letting go of. And so when you let go of those limitations, you're going to have to let go of the false belief that you need them in order to be loved or to be okay. You don't. The only thing you need to be okay is to follow your deepest soul desire. That is where your physical health is. That's where your happiness is. And that is where your orlog, your path. For me to do what I'm doing right now, I am fulfilling my orlog, which is part of how I make my living, which gives me the resources to do exactly what I want to do, which is to surf. But the service part of it, which is what you guys pay me for, the service part of it is also part of what I want to do, because I talk like this and I share these things because I can't stand not doing it. It drives me crazy. I have to write it in books. I have to put it in videos. I have to tell it to you over the phone. I have to get it out or I'm insane. So I'm still taking care of me. But there's the service part and then there's just the straight out fun part. But it's all part of the same thing. Anyway, I got kind of lost, but I think I'm making myself clear. Denial, that's what I'm talking about. So denial is when you are unwilling to take a look at the unresolved, unconscious issues. The way you know you're in denial is if you're continuing to manifest all of the problems and the chaos, even though you're telling yourself, I believe in myself, I believe that things are going to be good, I'm only focusing on the positive, I'm love and light, I'm happiness. That's how you know you're in denial. When you're not in denial, then you're going to be willing to do the work to take a look at what's broken in here. and you're going to be willing to take a look and do the work, whatever it is. You know, listen, I'll be straight with you. The majority of you need to be in counseling. If you're here following me, and you're learning from me, and you're attracted to me, the majority of you need to be in some kind of counseling. That's one of the things that I give, career.thunderwizard.com. I provide a counseling service. That's what I give to a lot of my apprentices. A lot of them, after they've been with me for a while, they're like, gosh, I had no idea there was going to be so much, you know, psychology or counseling. And I said, that's what wizards were. Shamans and wizards were, they were the shamans and the wizards and the magicians, and they taught ritual, and they taught you how to connect to the gods, and they explained mythology, and they also counseled you to help you get over your unconscious blocks. That's their job. That's going to be your job. If you're called to be a shaman, that's going to be part of your job. You don't have to call it counseling or psychology. I mean, I don't have a psychology degree. And if somebody comes to me and they clearly have something that needs to be dealt with by a professional, I recommend that they go and either, you know, go to a 12-step group or go to a professional or, you know, something. I'm not going to do something I'm not qualified to do. But guaranteed, if you are somebody who's living in a lot of pain and you're living in this kind of chaos, you need somebody who can mirror back to you what's going on in your unconscious. And if that's not me, it's got to be somebody else. Okay? So denial says, no, I can do it alone. I don't need anybody. I can do it myself. I'll figure it out. I don't need, you know, whatever. I could go on and on. Denial says you can do it alone. Denial says everything is okay when it's not. I'm happy when you're not. Denial forgets. It forgets the, you know, it forgets the hangover the next morning. Let me give you an example at my end. The waves are huge right now. And I live on a beach where the waves come in. They're sometimes twice as big as they are just a couple miles in each direction. Waves are huge right now. Perfect conditions. And they're dangerous. I mean, they're like life-threatening big. And they break really far out when it gets big like this. They're like a couple hundred yards out. Just all the power of the ocean. Well, I am 54 years old, but I am addicted to surfing. And so I got my big surfboard and I waited for the lull and I sat on the beach, and there was a couple other guys out there and they seemed to be okay. I know I'm going to be really tired trying to paddle out through all that, but you know what? I only live once. I'm going to do it. So I waited for the lull, which means the waves calm down for a little bit, and then you can paddle out. So I start paddling out, and you know, the currents are going like this, and the waves are crashing on me, and I'm getting real tired, and my arms and my shoulders are starting to burn. They're on fire. And I make it almost all the way out, and I'm starting to feel pretty good, and this huge wave comes. And they look big from shore, but they aren't. They are so much bigger when you're out there, and it's scary. Now I'm used to that. I've been scared before, so you know it wasn't too unusual, but I was pretty scared. So we have these things nowadays that we didn't have when I was a kid surfing, which we have these leashes. We have these, you know, basically these bungee cords that you tie around your ankle. And so I pitch my board and I dive as deep as I can because that wave wants to churn me up, and I come up and I barely come up, and as I'm coming up I feel my leash snap. My board is going into shore and I'm out there I have just me and my wetsuit in this really cold water, and oh, look what's coming. It's another one. And I get one on the head. What we say, I took one on the head. And if you've never been in waves, big waves, it's like being in this washing machine. You're being torn around and your limbs are getting pulled in directions and you're being shoved under the water. Bear in mind, it's not just being held underwater. You're already really tired and you're out of oxygen. You're already out of oxygen. You're breathing really hard because you've just been paddling, and you're cold and you're trying to stay warm. You're out of oxygen. That's what's going on as you're being held under, and you don't know how long the wave's going to hold you under, and then it's going to let you go. And then and then you don't know. Sometimes you don't know which direction to go. I've done this before. I dive down and hit the bottom with my head because I don't know which way is up. And I get to the top, and then you can't breathe because there's all this foam, and I can barely breathe, and guess what's coming? I'm still out of breath, and you got to do that 3 times, and so I have to swim in. So as you're swimming in, you get to this place called the impact zone, where the wave is coming up and crashing, and then sucking up and crashing, and it keeps you right here. You can't get out of it. And then you pop up, and then you're stuck there, and the current is pulling you back out as this big wave is coming. You're scratching to get in, but you're getting pulled back out, and this is why people die. This is why people drown. This is why surfing can be dangerous. So I went through all of that. I did get myself into shore. I don't know how I did, and I just had to keep telling myself, I do this side stroke thing. And I'm just doing my side stroke, and the waves, I get a little bit closer each time. And I'm still, as I'm coming in, the big giant shore break is pounding me, and I finally get onto shore. And I'm, thankful that I'm alive. That, I could have died. I could have died. And I'm on, and, I don't know how long, 20 minutes getting my breath back, and, people walking by and they see my broken leash and they're like, yeah, they've been there before. They know what it's all about. And so I decide, okay, I'm done for today. And I get back to my apartment and I go, you know what? I get another leash and I put it on and I go back out. And that's denial. That's denial. Denial is, 20 minutes later, you're not acknowledging what you've just been through and what you could put yourself through again. So there's a difference between being positive and being aware and being fearless and being in denial. Now, I'm addicted to surfing, so that kind of denial, but I've been doing a lot of thinking about it, and I've made some decisions, and I have a threshold now. And I know now, I'll look, and if the waves are at a certain level, regardless, and trust me, my ego was killing me. Because had I not done this, and had I been in the right spot, I could have caught that wave, and then I'd be thinking about this double overhead wave, and then and I would have this big story, and my ego was killing me. But that's the reality of it, is that, I'm done struggling, and I am getting older, regardless of how good of shape I'm in. In another 10 years, there's a good chance I'm going to have a little less stamina than I do now. And so I have to be realistic about it. So you got to be realistic about your unconscious, unresolved issues. And positive thinking is not an excuse to avoid your evolution. Positive thinking, what was I watching? I've seen people do this. The Crown, I think, it was on Netflix. And the king, right? If you've watched it, the king, he got lung cancer. They didn't tell him it was cancer. They said it was a blockage, because he's the king, after all. And they cut out his lung. And afterwards, he's all, oh, good, the lung is out and the blockage is out. But he's still smoking. And he's smoking. He just lost a lung and he's smoking. That's denial. That's denial. I watched a guy die from lung cancer, and he would smoke, and he lost his lung. He lost one of his lungs, and he would complain about the stupid doctors, and he would say, and if you had what I have, you'd smoke too. And it's denial. I know, yes, I went through that, but you know what? I'm staying positive. Everything's going to be okay. And I don't need to look at that. And yeah, that was bad, but I'll get past it. That's denial. You're free to do it. But the consequences of being in denial is that you will stay in, like where I was, you'll stay in the impact zone. You'll come up just long enough to get a breath of air, and then coming up is another wave. Boom, and it's going to riv it. And then as it pushes you in towards shore, you're going to get up and you're going to start swimming towards shore, and then the current as the big wave comes, it sucks the water up. It's going to suck you right back up. Boom. That's denial. Staying positive is not an excuse for denial. I mean, staying positive is not, in and of itself, is not a justification to avoid what needs to be looked at, what needs to be dealt with. So most of you, if you are talking to me, if not all of you, you are going to need some kind of counseling. And if that is shamanic counseling, that's great. And you gotta go with somebody who knows how to deal with your issue. Okay? Anyway, I could go on and on and on, but I think you get the gist. Now, let's get to the end. To get to that third level that I explained to you, where we just intuitively decide what we want, and that was the thing I was doing, I didn't realize, is that I was just deciding what I wanted, and that's all I cared about. As long as I could get clear on what it is I really wanted inside, I knew that's all I needed to do. I didn't realize I knew that. I was doing it instinctively, but my struggle was figuring out what it is that I want. And I go, you know what I want? I want this, I want this, I want this. And then I would get this feeling of relief, and then I could just do whatever I was doing. I unconsciously knew that I would create that, and I was. To get to that place, you have got to clear out your lower self, your unconscious mind. You've got to. Positive thinking is not going to do it for you. All the positivity in the world, all of the love in your heart, none of those things are enough. You have to clear out your unconscious mind. When you can clear out your unconscious mind, then you will be able to do that. Clearing out the unconscious mind consists of becoming conscious of all of the things we've been talking about. Unresolved karmic issues, past traumas that you have suffered, that in order to survive at the time, you had to not look at it. I can't look at that right now, but you're not in that. You're not in that life and death trauma situation. Now you have to look at it. You have to process it. You have to feel the pain. It means becoming aware of how you have, out of fear or out of a desire to be loved, taken action that's contrary to your soul desire. And that's why I know when people ask me questions like, well, how do you know when you should stay and take care of your loved ones or your kids or go after what you want? I already know that you are in conflict with yourself, because if you weren't, you wouldn't ask that question. No, nothing wrong with it. I've been there too. I get there myself. I still have to keep learning and growing, so I still end up there. So it means that you don't have a conscious awareness of what it is you truly want. You may be wanting to escape and think what you want is to escape. That's why people, I ask people, what is it that you truly want? And they go, well, I become rich, and then I'm like, no. That's not what you want. You're trying to escape. You're trying to compromise. Another one is people who don't want to leave, like I've heard this one before, and I've said it before. What I really want is to win the lottery, because then I can give money to my family, and I can give them what they need, and then I can go do what I want. And what you really want is you just want the money to escape. And you're going to justify it by telling yourself, but I'm giving them money. You don't know what you want. And that's okay. I often don't know what I want. As I evolve, I continuously have to ask myself, what is it that I really want? And then I have to face it. For me, facing it was facing the shame and here's one of it. I was embarrassed. I imagined myself in that penthouse next door. And then you guys would see it if I was there. You would see what it was like. And I was embarrassed of what you would think of me, because that's not spiritual to have that much money. It's not spiritual. Spiritual people don't go after money. They don't about it. I had to get honest with myself and say how ridiculously stupid that was. What the hell's wrong with me having a place like that if that's what does it for me? I have every right to live like that. And what's wrong with me working and doing what I need to do to earn the money? There's nothing. This is the thing. Anyway, that was my weird thing. I want your approval, and I felt myself wanting to downgrade my life so that you guys wouldn't think that I was too superficial. See what I mean? So I go through it too. But now I know that that's not what it was about, that what I want is to be comfortable and to be happy and to be here where in this place where I want. I mean, I'm earning enough money now. If I were living in some rural area, I'd have a huge house. But because I live where I live, I have a one-bedroom apartment. So it's all relative. It's all relative. All right. Enough of that. All right. I don't know if there's any questions. Let's watch. Let me take a little bit of break here. Again, new one is career.thunderwizard.com, astrologycertification.thunderwizard.com, and then the rest are still the same. Alrighty, so I think we have some more questions here. I'm going to get to the questions now. All right, so yeah, I've got I got a little fire in my belly, don't I? It seems to be increasing. I hope that's a good thing. All right. Question. Just trying to get your attention. I experience joy through my children. It's not about your loss with your fiance. You are your predecessors. I don't know. I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what you're talking and referring to. What? I don't know what you mean. Obviously, I said something to you that you're trying to fight with me about or communicate with me about it. I don't know what you're talking about. So, okay, you win. I don't know what that means. Looking for the questions. I'm not seeing a question. Here's one. Tansi Castellan, let me know you're asking a question. Otherwise, I think you're just making, you didn't tell me that. What do you think about my past incarnations when I be against moon? I don't know what you're saying here. What do you think about my past incarnations when I be against moon? They say he is for earth. Good moon is anger on me. This is your best video. You transform me. Well, I appreciate the compliment. I don't understand your question. Sorry. Gebo, question. What planet would you say Odin resonates with? Mercury. Without a doubt. Would someone's chart show anything related to working with him? Yes. Yeah. Yep, depending on what your ascendant is. In Vedic astrology, not Western astrology. Western astrology is off by 24 degrees. So don't go by that. Um, your what was I going to say? Uh, yeah, depending on your ascendant, like for instance, my ascendant, I need to work with Odin, but other people need to work with Woden, and that's something that you learn through your astrological chart. But yeah, it'll show your, at the very least, it'll show your connection with Mercury, which will tell me how Mercury wants to work with you, which will show me maybe not all of the ways or the only ways, but it'll show me a lot of ways that you can connect with Odin and how Odin wants to work with you. Okay. Stompy the Archon Dragon. Most counseling is garbage. So what? Are you saying that you don't need counseling because most counseling is garbage? That sounds like a justification to stay out of looking at yourself. So what? Of course most of it is garbage. Most of everything is garbage. Most chefs are fast food chefs and they don't know what they're doing. Most doctors don't have the first clue about what causes disease. Does that mean you're going to stop going to doctors? I was in it for 15 years with you only had 3 counselors? Come on, man. I'm sorry you had a bad experience. But that is forgive my language, that is a bullshit justification to stay in your crap. If you don't like those counselors, get somebody else. You must have had some reason to get counseling. Listen, I'm the first one to admit that psychiatrists especially don't have the first freaking clue what they're talking about. And they're some of the sickest, looniest people out there. But just because you had a bad experience and just because most of it is garbage doesn't mean that most religion is garbage. But I teach spirituality. So that's an excuse. That's what I hear. That's an excuse to stay unevolved and not work through it. And I know that pisses you off. So prove me wrong. Go find somebody that can tell you and help you. Go find something that will help you. Prove me wrong. Go find somebody that can help you. Let's see here. More questions. All right. Hinterskog. Question. New to the channel, could you please point me towards a good starting point for Qigong? Yes. Qigong.thunderwizard.com. QIGONG.thunderwizard.com. You can also just go onto my channel. Again, for those who don't know, you can go to the channel, the thunderwizard.com YouTube channel, and you can type in, not in the top bar, but find out how to search my channel. It's different if you're on a phone or you're on a desktop, but put the effort to find out how to search the channel. Type in Qigong, and you'll get tons of free Qigong. If you want to learn how to put Qigong to use in ritual, then go to thunderwizard.com and sign up at the $25 level. I will teach you from the very beginning. In fact, I recommend that to everybody. If you're the slightest bit interested in what I teach, go to thunderwizard.com, sign up at the $25 level, and then keep scrolling to the bottom where it says more until you get to the first video and just start from there. You'll learn how to integrate all this together. That's my recommendation for anybody. Okay, Cosmo Joe question. What about samskaras or blockages? What about them? What's your question? You know, everything is a samskara from some lifetime. Either this time, you know, most of the time, especially if you have deep-seated issues, especially if you've been born into an incredibly, like I was, there's worse. I haven't had, people have had a lot worse than me. But people who are born in really dysfunctional, you know, messed up families, that's coming from past life issues that have not been addressed. In other words, you went into another life and you didn't address it. And so it went deeper into your unconscious. And then in between lives, you went, wow, I missed that thing again. I got to make it a little more challenging so that I see it. So, you know, the people, why does the universe do this? How can you say that the karma is good? How can you say that why would a baby have to? Well, it's because that soul has gone through multiple lifetimes where they, this is a learning process, and they didn't pass their own test that they put for themselves, and so they choose to have more challenging times. So there's all levels of samskaras. It doesn't matter whether it's this time or last time. What does matter is that what you go through, every time you have a challenge, that challenge presents a very specific opportunity for you to resolve that. And if you go into denial, this is why it's a big deal to be in denial. When you go into denial, you are creating a samskara, a karma, which has to be addressed in a future life. Alcoholics. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not hurt. You are. But it doesn't matter. Even if you're not hurting anybody, you're damaging your own soul. You're doing it to avoid something really painful, because otherwise you wouldn't be. You're trying to avoid something. And the more that you avoid it, the more that it comes to you. I've heard from multiple sources, people who commit suicide and survive, they always say that in that last split second, when they pull the trigger and they hear the hammer going down, or when they've jumped off of the cliff or they've jumped off of the bridge, the moment that their foot leaves the ground, it all comes flooding back as to, oh my God, all I had to do was, and they know exactly what they could have done to solve the problem. So it doesn't matter. The point is, it doesn't matter. Question, Lady Red. If my sole desire is to nurture and guide others along their path, how can I best align with a mundane type job? Well, you can't. I am running into blocks and must bring myself into alignment to survive. Well, first off, let me get rid of that last sentence. There's a lot of fear in there. You don't have to, you may be creating scenarios where it's getting more and more difficult. But that's simply the universe saying, listen, we're not going to invest in you walking away from your soul. The farther, denial keeps you in that walking away from your soul, doing things that are destructive to you, because you're unwilling or unable or afraid to look at what's frightening or what's painful or what your unconscious mind is, has been programmed to keep you away from. So, if you're in a job you can't stand and your sole desire is to nurture and guide others along their path, and your job prevents you from doing that, it's pretty simple that it's time to quit that job. Now, you run into the problem. Maybe you're asking me this question. Well, I'm in this dead-end job and I don't have the money. And in order to do what I want, I need to have money so that I can... Wrong. The way the universe works is this. The universe is, I've got infinite resources here, human God, king, queen, and I'm waiting to give it to you. The only caveat is you have to go towards your highest joy. And when you go towards your highest joy, we will determine what you need in order to survive that and prosper in that, and we will give you that in the form of jobs or money or ideas for businesses. That's when you get this brilliant idea for a business. A lot of times it's the universe going, yeah, how you could do that is by doing this. And then if you talk yourself out of it, that's you operating out of your fear because, yeah, but this job, I'd have to quit this job and I knew a guy, I'll give you the story again. A guy I knew, a friend of mine, I've known him for years. I have a lot of friends, they don't know that I do this because I don't go around advertising it. And you can't teach your friends anyway. You teach students, but your friends are your friends. You grew up with them and whatever. So I don't tell them, drive up on them and tell them to quit smoking or drinking or whatever they do. That's not my business. If they want my help, they can ask and I'll tell them. But otherwise, they're still my friends. I love them anyway. But this guy, we hadn't seen each other for years. And when I came back out to California, we hooked up again and we started hanging out. And this is when I was broke, but I was creating this business. And I came out here to surf and I told him about that. And I walked away from, a 2-story house with 5 bedrooms and, a business and blah, blah, blah. And I had all these pains and whatever, but I came here to surf, and and I don't know, this is what I do for a living now. I take these psychic phone calls, and sometimes I make it, and but I'm barely functioning. And but he says, yeah, but you are so happy. I can see it. You're out there surfing, and you're the boss of your own time. You're doing what you want when you want. And he would go on about how he wished he had that. And he would say, but I've got this job. And he'd say, I'm addicted to the money. I get 6 figures, but I hate it. I hate the job. And he would go on. And he would say, I really want to play music again. And I want to, and I'd say, just do it. Sell your house. He had this house in the mountains. Sell your house and go, rent it, and just do what you want. We're 50 at that point. You're 50 years old. Go do what you want. And then he would talk about his girlfriend and how she wanted to marry him, and she wanted this and she wanted that, and she doesn't get me. And I'm like, then leave her. If you don't love her and you guys don't get along and she doesn't understand you, leave her. What are you doing? Well, then, after months of this back and forth, he came to me and he had made a decision that, what, sometimes, you can't be selfish. And so, I have to, and I'm going to stay with her, and I'm going to fix her roof. And, maybe we'll work towards getting married. She wants me to marry her by the time she's 50, which was like 6 months away. And so I think I'll do that. And listen, if that's what he wants to do, I'm not going to fight him. I didn't try and talk him out of it. I said, okay, man, I support whatever decision you want to make. You're my friend, and, I wish you all the best. Within a month, he was in the hospital with a brain aneurysm. A brain aneurysm shamanically means that you are full of rage at yourself, and you are at that conflict, and you have reached an impasse where you can no longer tolerate the conflict within you, and you're trying to think your way out of it, and something snaps. Now, of course, there's a medical reason for it too, but that's all, again, the way the universe works is after the fact, it goes back into time to justify so that it'll make sense. So that's what happened to him. And then he ended up having to marry her. He had to lose his job. He got a pension from it, luckily. They were about to fire him. He knew it, and then he manifested a way to get his pension. And he couldn't function, he couldn't move, he had to move in with her. So ended up selling his house, and she married him. There's a picture of their Facebook of her marrying him while he's still after having a stroke. And then I hear him complaining about how, her kids do this, and he has no control now. He's in hell. I mean, I think he's doing a little bit better, but... So the point is that if you wait around for the universe to give you the money so you can do the thing, you've got it backwards. That's not how it works. So you've got a job where you can't do what you want, and it's keeping you, so what? Quit. Or start creating your business now, or start planning. Just start taking action. The way that the universe knows that you have taken action is when you take action you can't take back. When I decided to divorce my ex-wife, once I took that, and I knew what that meant. That meant I was going to lose the house, I was going to lose the studio where I had my students, I was going to be on the street. I knew it. I knew that's what that meant. But I didn't care. It was more important to me to go after what I wanted than to be somebody's slave and live in hell. For me, it was hell. I got 9 minutes and I got to take a call. Anyway, so let's wrap this up here and see if there's any more questions I can answer. So anyway, I hope I answered. Read the book, The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. My book, The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. I do not have children. I don't want children. Thank you for asking. Any more questions? Probably, let's see. All right. Question. So my Mercury is in Virgo. In what? In Western or in Vedic? Because if it's in Western, none of that could be true. Oh, Gebo. So I've done your chart. So yeah. Okay, so it's Vedic. So my Mercury is in Virgo. My ascendant is Pisces. I don't know if that matters. But based on my Mercury, I need to look at your chart again. So I have to look exactly what sign, where, what's aspecting what. So I'd have to look at it. So if you're my my apprentice, then we'll talk about it next time we have an appointment. If you don't, go to career.thunderwizard.com and get another session with me, and I will look at your chart and tell you. Question: which Norse Teutonic deity would be associated with the planet Saturn? Njord, the god Njord, god of the ocean. Okay, that's it, my friends. I got to go. I got 7 minutes before I got to take a client. Yep, I'm working on Saturday. I don't normally work on Saturday, but that's how busy I am. For those of you that want to learn about this, go to thunderwizard.com, sign up at the $25 level minimum so you can get access to all of the videos where I go into depth and all this stuff. If you want a session with me, go to career.thunderwizard.com. If you want to become certified as a Vedic astrologer in the Thunder system, go to astrologycertification.thunderwizard.com. Qigong.thunderwizard.com if you want to get the power to be able to make the decision. You can't make these decisions. You can't have the ability to look at your unconscious mind without power. That comes through Qigong, qigong.thunderwizard.com. So that's it for now, my friends. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Sorry I couldn't stay on longer, but duty calls. So stay tuned. There's 2 more certification, at least maybe 3 more certification things coming out soon. I'm empowering teachers. I'm here to create teachers who will go out and change the world. That's what we're here to do. All right. Talk to you soon.